I wrote scene ideas primarily, and we'd start and we'd shoot whatever I could. I'd come in, I'd say, right, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then then I'd go and dream a bit more and come up with stuff. So it was a very organic process.
I think it's a very brave and forward-thinking piece of writing, which I did at the time. I still do now.
I don't think I'm rewriting the Bible with Darkplace, but I am adding an addendum.
Well, all he was trying to achieve, basically, was to put down on celluloid what he'd been trying for various years to put down, on paper. He has a very distinctive style, you see. That's what, got me thinking, it could be quite good, because, if he can do what he did within the books, in film, then possibly he might have something fairly new to say. And I still, think that's probably the case. Nobody writes books like Garth Marenghi. Nobody.
Ahmed had financed films before. He was interested in motion pictures himself and the moving image. And I persuaded him that this was a worthwhile artistic endeavour.
And what happened to him? Because
Ahmed very, very sadly died. He was shot dead in his flat.
I was actually led to believe that Darkplace was going to be a film from the outset. It's only when arguments ensued between various other cast members and things, it was cut up into so many episodes. I think it probably would have benefited from being, a full sort of feature. But what can you do?
But, according to reports, if it were to have been a feature film, it would have run at 7 hours.
Would it have been that long? Good heavens. Well, see, now that's too long. 2.5, I think, is most... Well, no, not even that. Yeah, well, obviously that's a problem. Better off as a TV series, then. Can't always be right.
The main problem was that we made this show, and I forgive me for not telling you this up front when we hired you, but we made this show without any channel's permission. So I just started making the show with Garth, paying for it myself, and we didn't know you had to be asked. So we made it, gave it to the channel, and they said, "I'm sorry, we didn't ask you to make this." I said, "What do you mean? You didn't ask us to make this? How, do you ask everyone before they make a show?" And they said, "Yes, we do." And I went, "This is news to me, sweetheart. I made this show with my sweat and blood. I spent the last 4 weeks of my life making this show. Do you want it?" "No," they say. So I'm, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, having to sell 40 episodes of a medical-based horror show with no one buying it. That's why we had to put it out in Peru. Thank God for the Peruvian market.
Dagless, first and foremost, I wanted Dagless to be every man. I wanted him to be everything that an audience member would want to be, would aspire to be, had been in the past. It had to be Johnny Average. It had to be your average Daily Mail reader. In many ways, he is an extension of my own natural abilities. He's got a little bit more than me. He is a little more tragic than I am as a character. He's seen the dark side a little too much. Rick Douglas travels in a golf cart around the hospital corridors. Now, I know that some people will say doctors don't really do that. Well, it depends. If you go to a private hospital and you ask for it, you'll get it. I like to think if I was a doctor, I'd probably soup up all my implements. I think I wouldn't wear a white lab coat, I don't think. I'd wear a leather one.
Sanchez is a really complex guy. I mean, he's been in the Falklands. He's seen some serious stuff. super glued men together, that, that type of thing. The type of thing that you and I will never see. So you've got to give respect to these, these kind of characters, which I hope I did. One Track Lover was written with Garth falling in love with a broccoli woman. Anyway, from what I remember, he had to be out of town to do something. Something with his wife, I can't remember what it was. So therefore, there wasn't any time, so I did it. That's all it was. Otherwise, it would have been him. So no, there was no, kind of, letting us see, the different sides, to Dr. Sanchez. Sanchez was, just going to be just this down the line surgeon, didn't take any shit, did what he wanted. If he wanted to operate that day, he did. If he didn't, he didn't. That was pretty much how it ran. So that's why I fell in love, with a broccoli woman. I believe it's a very good episode. The main sort of focus of the end of the episode, of the broccoli episode, Sanchez loses, his old chap because he's laid down with a broccoli woman. I mean, it is, for instance, if you imagine somebody like Jean-Michel Jarre losing their hands. We can only imagine what that would be like.
I played Reed as a slightly dishevelled boss anyway. He was a man who was trying to deal with maverick doctors. I mean, Sanchez and Douglas are maverick doctors. They're great doctors, but they do doctoring their way. And Reed has to contend with that. He's got hospital to run. He's got wonton on his back 24/7. He's got the third floor to contend with. And, he used to be one of the best surgeons on the wing. But he lost a knee in Korea, and so he can't operate anymore.
I thought he lost a bollock in Korea.
Yeah, he had a bad time in Korea. He lost a knee and a ball.
There was a lot of trouble because Dean wore boots as well. And partly why I bought the boot was to kind of raise my height a little. As you know, I am, I wouldn't say significantly, but I suppose I am, to any bystander, a little bit shorter than Dean. But Dean would deliberately buy bigger heeled boots to make me look smaller on set. So then I would buy a boot with a bigger heel to up the ante. And then it became this really rather ridiculous boot war, which never really ended. And there were a lot of casualties, and it was a sorry business, and it was stupid and crazy, and it went on for 5 years.
He wears those ridiculous cowboy boots that make him slightly taller. I never understand men that do that. I think Tony Blair does that. Lifts, they're called. These hugely arrogant, stupid men, they're as bad as fucking toupees. They wear these lifts to make themselves an inch higher than they already are. If you're small, you're small. Do you think anyone gives a shit if you're 5 foot or 5'1"? You know what I mean? With a lift on your shoe. You're still a short man. Unbelievable.